Welcome back to another episode of Trash Talk. I'm John Bernard. This is Nick. We are the Kairouz Bros, giving you the fight news around the world in all combat sports. Nick, we've just come back from America. We've ticked off a lot of combat sports events. We just had the boxing done in Saudi Arabia, UFC 313 done in the bank. We'll recap that. What are your thoughts on UFC 313 so far?
Look, as an overall card, wasn't the worst. Obviously, Dan Hooker pulling out did kind of bring out the air. Like, it really sucked out the air of the whole event.
There was just not a lot of English speakers on the card. And you know what? I will say, like, apart from Justin Gaethje, it was hard to get, a good fight promotion, a good hype from non-English speakers. Because Pereira just says Sharma. Ankalaev doesn't talk English if he does your interview. And then Fiziev was funny, but it's very broken English as well.
No,
and I liked Fiziev.
Fiziev was probably my highlight.
He was funny.
He was funny. He tried his best. But even like you look at the press conference, I feel like the press conference is usually like a gauge of how interesting people are or how interested fans are in the event. And it was pretty empty in there.
It probably did well worldwide on YouTube, like, live stream numbers, whatnot. But the people there at the event, it wasn't at your normal MGM. They took it to the Mandalay Bay. There was a smaller crowd there. It wasn't packed. I was kind of surprised. I thought Alex Pereira, being the superstar that he is, it would draw a lot more people. The crowd was very vocal.
They were vocal for Sharma.
Yeah.
They were trying to get around him. But again, it's like you're asking, anytime you got to ask a foreign fighter a question, they got to translate it, then they got to say their response, and the answer's got to get translated again. It just holds up a lot, and it just takes
100%.
time, and it kind of sucks the enthusiasm out. But it was an overall good card. Very surprising finish, obviously, with Ankalaev getting the victory.
Underwhelming main event.
Underwhelming main event, but that does take us to our UFC hot take this week. Bernard, what's the hot take?
The hot take is Alex Pereira deserved to retain the title at UFC 313.
Well, no, he didn't, because he lost the fight. He lost pretty clean. From me, live scoring the fight, I had Ankalaev winning rounds 2, 3, and 4. Some people said Pereira round 1, round 3. Look, I think you're just being a fanboy at that point.
Well, look, at this point in time, Dana White said he had the fight for Ankalaev. Other content creators, MMA Guru, Brandon Schaub, they said they had it 3-2 Pereira, right? So I think it comes down to which style you like watching and also who you're going for.
No.
I was going for Sharma. I think Sharma won the fight. But it's not even that point. Pereira, I think, did enough for the victory, and Ankalaev didn't do enough to win the title. And what I'm saying is, yes, he wrestled him. Yes, he won the clinches, and he had him up against the cage. But what did he do with the control time? He did absolutely nothing. Pereira stuffed all his takedowns, landed more significant shots. If you're going off that, Pereira wins the fight. And he thought he did enough as well. You saw him after the fight.
I understand the argument that Ankalaev was 0 for 10 on takedowns. You should be criticized for that, and you should probably be penalized for that
Not
somehow
penalized.
in the rounds.
You should not lose points, but you're trying to extract an outcome from the fight. The other fighter is not allowing you to do that. You should be rewarded for it.
But in saying that, just because you're a fanboy of Alex Pereira doesn't mean that he won the fight. Ankalaev was more aggressive. He was putting the pressure on. He was moving forward. He was better at the striking, and he tried to at least shoot for takedowns. What did Pereira actually do?
Also, I think the general fan base audience, Twitter, Instagram, they don't want another Dagestani wrestler. And this style of boring wrestling,
Again,
not to say Islam's one of the most entertaining wrestlers ever, but, your Bilal Muhammad, your decision merchant style wrestling that does nothing with the control time, and they get criticized for just hugging throughout the fight. And yes, it's MMA, I understand, but they just prefer the more exciting fighters. That's why there's more noise online that he didn't deserve to win the fight.
I think people are just hating on Ankalaev because he's Dagestani. They've got this hatred and bias towards Dagestani fighters. I don't care if he's a Dagestani fighter. Once they enter the cage, you score it unbiased. Who won the fight? I'm going to ask you this straight up. Who was the better striker in that fight?
Look, I do think that maybe Ankalaev landed.
He won the striking battle.
He landed a bit better.
If Pereira's biggest strength is his striking and he lost the striking battle, how can people argue that he won the fight? He won round 1 because he was better with the leg kicks and was better overall striking. But Ankalaev rattled him. He had the most significant strike of the fight. And throughout the rounds 2, 3, and 4, he was pressing him, moving forward, and landing more strikes. So I think it's easy. And as Ankalaev said in the post-match presser, it's big Ank time.
It's big Ank time, yeah. I mean, not what UFC fans want to hear. There was a lot of TVs being broken. People were throwing shit at their televisions. They didn't want to see Sharma lose. And to your point, yeah, I think there is a bias towards Dagestani fighters and that style of wrestling. But why does everyone love Merab? And Merab has that similar, wrestle style, that cardio crazy wrestle style. And the reason is because Merab's a bit more entertaining. He does the skits online. He speaks English. He interacts with the fans. He's funny. And I mean, he beat Umar, who was a Dagestani wrestler.
That's probably why.
Exactly right. So, I mean, Yeah, there's definitely a bias for sure. It's going to be an immediate rematch, but I just think Alex Pereira did enough to retain,
But I feel
being the
like,
champion.
and especially when I think MMA Twitter, MMA social media, anytime there's a close fight and their fan favorite fighter doesn't win, they just claim robbery straight away. Like this was not a robbery.
Yeah, no.
It's not like, where someone had a clear, distinct victory in a round and they scored it differently. Okay, maybe the 49-46 round that one judge scored, okay, you can maybe criticize that judge. But overall, I think it was a unanimous victory for Ankalaev.
All right, UFC 313 recap. What will these fighters do next? Starting with Alex Pereira, I think it's got to be an immediate rematch.
Yeah,
Everyone was wanting more from that fight. He didn't really let his hands go like he did against Khalil Roundtree, and like we've seen him do it, against Jamal Hill, where he just left hooks. We didn't see one left hook. Let's be honest. We didn't see one short shoulder pop.
I think his best strike was a jab. That's like he landed one clean jab in the whole fight, and that's what it really was. But what's next for Alex Pereira? Dana White said it. Pereira said it himself. Ankalaev's willing to do it. It's an immediate rematch. And let's not forget, this was Pereira's 4th title defense within 1 year.
That's crazy.
This is crazy activity. No fighter has ever done that before. So I think I think Pereira definitely deserves the rematch. You have 3 title defenses in one division, you get an immediate rematch. Like this is the respect that you deserve.
So Ankalaev has been going at Yuri Prohaska. What's next for Ankalaev? He's been saying, I would treat you a lot differently than Alex Pereira did. Probably utilize the wrestler a bit more. Called Yuri basically a fraud. Yuri says, keep my name out of your mouth. I don't think that fight's going to happen. I do think it's going to be an immediate rematch. He said he would like to make a return around Abu Dhabi, which is usually October time. So it'd be interesting to see if they run that rematch in October. I think, an immediate rematch is on the card.
I know those sheikhs in Abu Dhabi would definitely want Alex Pereira to come down to the peninsula. But in saying that, Ankalaev does call the shots now. I feel like him calling out Yuri Prohaska is maybe just trying to set up a future fight, always trying to set up that little animosity there just to kind of build up a fight.
Yeah.
But he knows the only choice is rematching Alex Pereira.
Justin Gaethje, what's next for him? I think, look, he's been calling for a title shot. He just went out on Twitter and said, I've only lost one exhibition match. I'm in line for a title shot. Now, I don't know how you feel about this, Nick. I think he deserves at least a number 1 contenders opportunity to the title shot. And Dana White's got the shits at Arman Tsarukyan. Put Arman versus Justin Gaethje. I think Arman versus Justin Gaethje for a number 1 contender shot at the title makes sense.
Look, Justin Gaethje, all respect to you, but you do not deserve a title shot. You're just coming off a knockout from Max Holloway, who was a featherweight. You don't deserve to leapfrog Charles Oliveira or Arman Tsarukyan.
He's 36, Nick.
I understand that he's 36 years old, but just because of your old age, it doesn't mean you just leapfrog people in the division. You lost to Charles Oliveira clean. You don't deserve to leapfrog Arman because Arman's beaten Charles Oliveira. If anything, Max Holloway should be above Justin Gaethje in the rankings because he actually beat him by knockout, very dominating. And I don't understand why he's saying it's an exhibition. Why is it an exhibition? The fight was at 155. You lost the fight at 155. What's exhibition?
It was
about
it was
it's
like
a UFC
non-stake.
fight.
There was no stake on it. It's a BMF title.
But he beat Dustin Poirier for the BMF title. Why doesn't he consider that an exhibition fight?
I agree with that, but ultimately he had nothing to gain from the Max fight. That's what he's saying.
Don't take the fight then.
But it was UFC 300, a big payday. The UFC incentivized him to take it. He took it. But it's an exhibition. That's how I'm saying. That's how he's looking at it.
I'm saying 3 months later though, Dustin Poirier faced Islam for the title. If Justin Gaethje really wanted the title shot that badly, he would have held out till June.
All right, what about Dan Hooker? Do you rematch him against Dan Hooker down the line? If he didn't sustain that many injuries, it was only a 3-round fight. It looked pretty good after. Do you rematch Dan Hooker, or does Dan Hooker look at maybe a Mateus Gamrot again, or someone else in the division?
The only fight I want to see Dan Hooker have right now is against Arman Tsarukyan because they've gone at each other.
Bad blood there.
Arman Tsarukyan, Dan Hooker's going at his bad back, saying that he's trying to blame Nina or stuff like this, whatever it is. But Dan Hooker
he'll kick his monobrow off his head.
Yeah, he's going to kick his monobrow. So Dan Hooker and Arman Tsarukyan need to settle that beef, and it makes an interesting fight as well. I think Arman Tsarukyan mops the floor with him just from the stylistic standpoint. But I think that's a fight that Arman needs to go back into.
Let's move on. Rafael Fiziev. He has come out on Ariel Helwani and said he might be looking at going down to 145. He might be looking to go move to featherweight because he just hasn't been able to cut it at lightweight, and it's been pretty unlucky. He took this fight on short notice. But ultimately, this is 3 losses in a row in this division. I think he would absolutely go on a tear in the featherweight division because they're predominantly strikers. Apart from Mosvar and Aljamain Sterling, they're really the only wrestlers in that division. So I think with his skill level at featherweight, he says it's very easy for him to cut weight. So I think Fiziev at featherweight makes a lot of sense.
And let's look at the facts here. he took this fight on short notice instead of Arman Tsarukyan or Charles Oliveira because he was the one that could make weight the easiest. And that's because he's a smaller fighter. He even said himself in the ring, in the cage, he felt small up against Justin Gaethje. When he was kicking him, he felt like he was kicking a bigger guy. And because of his size and because he already walks around out of the cage at about 170, I think he said, it's not a massive weight cut for him to go down to featherweight. It's something that's very viable and something that he can do.
No, it'd be great. Give him the loser of Volk versus Diego Lopez.
That's still probably a bit much for him. You probably got to go a bit lower.
Well,
in the
he's
rankings.
going down in.
Yeah, but he's still an 11th ranked fighter in the lightweight division.
Yeah.
He's got to go a bit smaller.
You wouldn't
Maybe
give
like
him. You wouldn't give him a Mosvar. Give him like
Yair Rodriguez, maybe even Aljamain Sterling, who kind of needs a win coming
Emmett.
off a loss. Josh Emmett, yeah, that probably wouldn't be that good striking battle.
Yeah,
But
I'd like to see Fiziev in featherweight. I think that weight class would suit him definitely. And great guy, great skill. Just being very unlucky again. If he didn't get knocked down in that fight in the second round, it really did change the fight. I think he almost did enough to even get it done with the knockdown. It was a very close fight.
But is he kind of calling out, though, that lightweights are pretty much just weight bullies? Like, he's walking around out of the cage at his normal weight. For him to do a weight cut, it's nothing too strenuous. He's saying Justin Gaethje, he was much bigger than me, but they're both fighting at lightweight. So I think like Islam, Justin Gaethje, Arman Tsarukyan, Charles Oliveira, they all need like months of preparation to cut weight. I feel like we're just in this generation of weight bullies, so Rafael Fiziev may as well take advantage of that and go down to featherweight. It's the only thing that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I feel like these lightweights are just bullying, right? And look at Islam. He's kind of just waiting on the result of what's happening in the welterweight, whether he wants to go jump up or not, because it's probably his healthier weight.
Yeah, I feel like it's a big weight jump to welterweight though. That's why they enjoy, even if it is strenuous to cut 20 pounds, it is easier to just stay in lightweight.
Let's talk about some other fight news. Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier has been leaked by Benil Dariush. Now, he's not a journalist, he's a fighter, but he's come out and said on Submission Radio, they goes, from what I'm hearing, it's Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier in Dustin Poirier's retirement fight in Louisiana.
Now, Benil Dariush is one of the nicest.
I like him. He gets a lot of hate. I like him.
But who are his sources? Who are you talking to?
I mean, if your manager's speaking to the UFC and your manager says, no, you can't face Dustin Poirier because he's actually gone up against Max.
Yeah.
He would know. Fighters know.
But I'm saying like
The managers know first, and then the fighters know. And then the fighters can leak it in interviews. That's what generally happens.
Benil, if you're going to break the news, at least cite your source because no one believes you.
No,
I feel like his credibility as a journalist is zero. Like you got to provide some more information there. But
got better sources than me, I'll tell you that.
How do I feel about that fight though? Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier. It's great. It's a rematch. It's a rematch from very early on in their careers, and I think Max Holloway is a much better fighter now. But Dustin Poirier, like, why do you want this as your retirement fight? And why does Max Holloway want to do this as well?
Well, Max Holloway wants to do it because he wants to establish himself in a bigger weight class, right? He did that against Justin Gaethje, but now going after losing to Ilya, he probably needs to make a big statement in the lightweight division, right? So essentially, it's a great fight for Max. But Dustin Poirier, I worry because I don't want to see you get knocked out similar to the way Justin Gaethje did, similar to how you got knocked out by Justin Gaethje as well with the leg kick. You're going up against a really supreme striker in the UFC. In your retirement fight, I know you live and die by the sword as well, but I just want to see you get the win in Louisiana, in your hometown. And going up against Max Holloway is going to be a tough task to do.
Look, in that fight, I'm going for Max.
Why?
I don't really like Dustin Poirier that much. But the way he was taking a shit on Michael Chandler kind of made me dislike him a bit.
Well, he's not the only one that vehemently hates Michael Chandler in that division.
Even Michael Chandler's been nothing but nice to us. It's hard for me to say, like when someone's taking a shit on him, I can't just, let that happen.
He was talking dirty tactics about Michael Chandler.
Pulling his mouth
his mouth guard up. He's a dirty fighter. He's got really bad shit talk in the middle of the Madison Square Garden cage. I understand.
Also, I'm on Team Connor. I got to put that out there.
Okay, yeah. Okay, Team McGregor.
I'm on Team McGregor, so I got to be anti-Team Justin.
Dustin was pretty solid to us as interviewers as well, so I can't hate Dustin. He's one of the greats of the sport, one of the greats of the division. I want to see him go out celebrated, not knocked out or put to sleep. So I don't know if this is 100% confirmed. I'm worried for him about this fight. It'll be a great fight.
Nah, it's two legends of the sport clashing, and this is like a Dustin Poirier. If he's having a retirement fight, which he said it is, then this is a worthy opponent of a retirement fight. This is Shawn Michaels going up a legend in Ric Flair, someone to actually send you off, go back into the sunset. Hopefully he doesn't get knocked out. I'm sure he's planning on not getting knocked out. But if he does, hey, that is what it is. You go out on your sword.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think Beneil Dariush, who broke this, his manager is Ali Abdelaziz. So
He kind of would know.
he would be in the know if this fight's going to happen. You can pretty much guarantee this is a done deal.
Dustin Poirier versus Max Holloway. When's Louisiana though? What are they going to do in June or July? It's an odd place to have an event. I'm pretty sure there's always cyclones or monsoons. So you got to watch out.
Yeah, you got to pick the right time of year. You're right. It's not going to be a Cyclone Alfred type of thing where we panic for no reason. But I'm sure
never
it's going
know.
to be dangerous.
You never know.
All right, let's move on. I'm going to ask Ali Abdelaziz one time. Now, we've met him in person. He's a lovely guy. He's nice to us, right? Ali Abdelaziz, please stop posting on your fighters' Twitter's accounts, okay? Because you're giving them a hard time. Like Ankalaev, for example. He's probably just a nice guy. Just wants to provide for his family, fight. He won the title, living his dream. He was so happy he won the title. But people hate him because of how they see him interact on Twitter and how he's been going at Alex Pereira. I'm sure that's not Ankalaev doing that.
Anytime you see Ankalaev or hear him speak, he comes across as very softly spoken, very nice, very humble. Then you go to his Twitter page and you read some of his tweets and you're like, this is a completely different person. And that's because it most likely is. It's most likely Ali Abdelaziz tweeting from his fighters' Twitter accounts.
Look at, he's done it countless times. I mean, look what happened with Merab and Umar. Merab wanted to kill Umar because of some of the things that Umar was saying on Twitter that he probably just didn't write.
And Umar's like, I didn't say any of this. It's like, mate, we've got receipts of your Twitter literally stating what you said about Georgian people.
Same thing happened with Ankalaev and Pereira. Ankalaev's going at Pereira's alcohol issues, or he's going at Pereira himself and his family.
Pereira's like, listen, mate, I really dislike that he's saying this. Like, it's making me hate him. So, like, you're stirring up controversy and drama for literally no reason.
Look at some of these examples. I mean, he called John Jones a drug cheat. Really didn't need to do that. Out of the open blue, didn't need to do that. Called Yuri Prohaska a terrible fighter. You know what I mean? I just don't think that's in Ankalaev's vocabulary.
I think also, I don't know if Ankalaev is referring to Khalil Roundtree as Khalil Bumtree. Like, it just doesn't seem like it's not in his style of trash talk.
And to be fair, Ali Abdelaziz has been caught out multiple times tweeting as if he was the fighter. He's referring to the fighter in third person.
He's tweeting from the wrong account. He's forgetting to switch accounts when he's doing the tweets. So he's actually tweeted from Umar, writing as Umar in the third person, which is just something that would never happen. Umar's not referring to himself in the third person. He's got broken Dagestani English. And then he's actually trying to back that up by saying, oh, sometimes fighters refer to themselves in the third person. Just admit it. Maybe delete the tweet. Don't try and backtrack and try and cover yourself.
I know there has to be a bad guy. Everyone loved Chael Sonnen being the bad guy, but you're making your fighters into the villains, and it's your fault they probably receive a lot of unnecessary hate. So how about you let your fighters be your fighters? I mean, it's working. They're drawing pay-per-views. I don't know, but I'm just saying, let the fighters tweet, because obviously what you're doing is causing unnecessary hate and beef in the UFC.
I did see a clip from Nina with her interview with Ankalaev, and she asked him straight up, who is tweeting from your account? And he said, look, it's in combination with Ali Abdelaziz.
Okay.
So he did kind of admit to it. He said, like, I put out my tweets with the help of Abdelaziz.
If he approves the tweets from Ali, is it him putting it out there?
Yeah. You're a co-conspirator.
Yeah.
You're a co-conspirator. You're equally responsible.
Exactly right. I mean, you're responsible for your Twitter account.
But that's the thing. It's like, if you're just giving out your logins, though, you guys got to be careful, because what if Abdelaziz is delegating to somebody?
But Abdelaziz is also just putting these things into his head, and he goes, you know what, Ali, let's put that up. So really, Ali is probably just speaking for him.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, he's got to be careful, because he might write something one day that might really piss off the wrong fighter. For example, John Jones, you're calling him a drug cheat, you're calling him all these things. John Jones sends Ankalaev in person. He might press him.
Could be on
He
site.
might, yeah.
Exactly right. And I wouldn't know if he can cut it at heavyweight. We know Pereira probably can't go up to heavyweight now after what we just saw.
No,
but in saying that, does he tweet for Islam?
Yeah, no, he does. I think there's been a time where he's been caught out referring to Islam, he tweeted from Abdelaziz's account, his own personal account. As Islam, saying like, no, you can't do this to me. So that's where he got caught out again. So like, he manages a whole bunch of fighters' Twitters. I think Khabib put up a tweet for Ankalaev following his victory. And if you look at the words in English about how he wrote them, you knew it came from Khabib. You knew it came from,
it was broken English.
Yeah,
you're right.
So like, that's how you know it came from Khabib's.
You know he wrote tough opponent.
Yeah, like
at the end of it.
That's how you know. So like, when Abdelaziz is writing, you know it's from him. The English is too good.
No, you're 100% right. Now, is this Khalil Roundtree? Which one's that, Ryan?
This is where he's actually going. This is where he's mistaken himself as Islam. So there's a report, Charles Oliveira, saying he doesn't want to fight Charles Oliveira again. Abdelaziz, as Islam, is saying he's probably going to lose to Arman, and still I'm not going to have a title run.
There you go. So he's actually tweeting as Islam. He's done it. He's done it before. How many Twitter accounts does he run? You know what? I'm going to go out and say he probably runs Justin Gaethje's Twitter.
No, Justin Gaethje seems like Justin Gaethje seems pretty savvy
Hey.
on socials.
Justin Gaethje just called for a title shot and said, I fought in an exhibition. You think Justin Gaethje's putting that up? I think Ali's logged into Justin's Twitter and just said, give me a title shot.
Look, you might have access to it, but I mean, like some of the tweets Justin put out during fight week, it sounded like Justin.
Okay, so now we know. Let's move on. Pereira versus John Jones is no longer happening. It's no longer on the table. After Pereira's recent loss, they're talking about an immediate rematch with Ankalaev. And it looks like John Jones has pretty much got his sights set on Tom Aspinall. So Tom Aspinall pretty much came out and said, it's pretty much confirmed the UFC is looking for a date and a venue. So I think John Jones was just waiting to see the outcome of Pereira versus Ankalaev.
I feel like, though, after the Stipe fight, it was kind of a done deal that it was going to be Aspinall.
Not according to Aspinall. Aspinall went onto his YouTube and said, the only person holding this fight up is John Jones. The UFC want to make it happen. John Jones is refusing to give a date. He's refusing to agree to terms. So I think John Jones was just patiently waiting and weighing up his options.
By the way, if Pereira won this fight, then there was a potential for a heavyweight fight.
There was potential for him to go up to heavyweight and create a super fight and leave Tom Aspinall in the cold, defending an interim title again.
Look, I don't want to call Aspinall a liar. But
It's not.
No. I'm saying, but if you go back to post 309, there was a clip, I think, on Aspinall's YouTube of him saying he stayed at the arena till 3 a.m., talking to Hunter, talking to Dana, and that he had some good news coming soon. That was in November. That's a while ago now. So unless
His last fight was Manchester.
But I'm saying unless Dana's lying to Aspinall's face, saying we're going to get it sorted, or Hunter's lying, someone's got to be lying here because Aspinall's saying yeah, it's happening, it's done, it's nearly a done deal. And then John Jones is like, yeah, just give me 30 mil and I'll do it. So someone's just not paying up or someone's lying. Something's happening.
I think now the UFC have kind of backed John Jones into a corner. There's no stock in the Pereira fight anymore. He's not the champion in his own division, so he can't go up. He hasn't cleared out his division. We don't want to see that anymore. Everyone wants to see Tom Aspinall versus John Jones. It's probably going to be the biggest fight of the year, bar Ilya versus Islam, maybe. So it's going to happen. The only question is when and where.
I saw a report, whether you can believe all these MMA reports, but June 29th, International Fight Week, it looks like it could be Aspinall versus John Jones with the co-main as Charles Oliveira versus Ilya. That could be one of the biggest cards ever. Massive, two big fights on the same card.
There's no way they would. You know why they wouldn't do that? Because you're looking at two guaranteed pay-per-view numbers, pay-per-view successes. Why wouldn't you split them up?
Yeah, but Charles Ilya is not a title fight, so it kind of has to be on a co-main. Any card that it's on, it has to surrender to the title fight, unless you're putting it on a Bilal Jack Della card. But then again, why would you do that for?
Anyway, all we have to know is Tom Aspinall versus John Jones will happen. They're eyeing the summer. Dana White said it's going to happen in the summer this year. We're looking forward to it. It's going to be a massive fight. I can't wait to be there on the ground.
You know what's terrible though? Going back to Alex, the result of losing this fight. Not only does he not get to fight John Jones, he loses his title, and he drops from number 3 to number 8 on the pound for pound ranking.
I know, geez.
So harsh.
And Ankalaev debuts in the pound for pound rankings at number 6.
Number 5?
Number 6.
Gee, so he just shoots up, and Pereira, one bad outing and bang, everything's gone like that.
That's the game. That's the fight game. Now let's move over to the fighting nerds. We saw one of the craziest knockouts in the UFC, spinning back kick from Mauricio Hufi against Bobby Green. You got to feel for Bobby Green because as soon as he changed his name to King, he's been put to sleep and knocked out. Very bad numbers as soon as he changed his name to King. But in saying that, are the fighting nerds the best stable in the UFC?
Well, right now, they're all undefeated. They're all getting crazy knockouts. Kai Borralho is looking for a title shot. Hufi looks like he's going to be a future champion.
I think, they're 18-0 right now as a collective. 18-0 in the UFC after the Hufi knockout, which is unbelievable for a stable right now. But you look at them. They're crazy strikers. I mean, Kai Borralho's calling for Rob Whittaker. He wants to ascend in his division, and he's calling for the big fights. They're very confident in their abilities. You just had Silva go at it with Bryce Mitchell at the press conference, bringing a globe out, starting to fuck Bryce Mitchell chant. These guys are very entertaining. They know how to sell their fights. They know they bring the glasses out. They put Joe Rogan in the glasses. They had me in the glasses. Every interviewer, but wants to be a fighting nerd. This is great marketing from him, and I think they are the best stable in the UFC right now.
Well, if you look at them, Kai Borralho, John Silva, Carlos Prates, and then Mauricio Hufi, they're all charismatic. They're all great fighters. and they actually get the game. They're trying to put on a show. They're trying to get finishes, and they're trying to market themselves outside of the ring.
They say yes to everybody as well. Kaya will do every interview you ask him to do. If you want to do a skit with him, he'll love to do a skit. You know, I mean, Hoofy was bloody hilarious, gave some great answers around Alex Pereira. He's trained with him. He was telling us, you know, the guy doesn't smile. They're great personalities. But in saying that,
you got Carlos Pratt smoking a ciggy in the crowd. The guy is cool. He's trying to market himself with the glasses on.
These are funny guys. I mean, he went on Ariel Hawani. Ariel asked him, how many cigarettes he's smoking a day? He goes, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 a day,
That's
maybe.
A professional athlete.
You
Why
know,
not?
before training, maybe, hey, that nicotine maybe gets him into the zone. The guy's got a great knockout record. He's entertaining to watch. In saying that, who's your favorite fighting nerd?
Carlos Pratt.
Yeah.
I think gets the knockouts. Obviously, smokes ciggies. Like, you're just defying the odds. You're defying what professional athletes should do, and I'm a fan.
I'm going to go with Berillo.
Yeah, no,
I think
he's good.
he's great.
He
speaks English. He just needs to be active. The poor guy's waiting for a fight in the UFC.
No one wants
He's
to
calling
fight him.
out Rob Whittaker. He's staying active, doing grappling matches. Like, give the guy an opportunity. He's gonna again. He's the next person to fight. I mean, Silva's next, definitely in Miami. That'll bring the fighting nerds to 19-0 if he beats Bryce Mitchell. And then I think Kaya Berillo, if he goes up against Rob Whittaker, it's not looking good for Rob.
But is this now the best stable in the UFC?
Yeah.
You've got the fighting nerds. You've got City Kickboxing. You've got the Dagestani stable. Who's on top right now? Because the Dagestanis, before Ankalaev, they were on a bit of a losing streak. Ankalaev's kind of brought them back up. But to be an undefeated stable in the UFC, all 4 of you getting knockouts, with the entertainment, I think they are the best.
I think just based on entertainment and their record right now in the UFC, I think they have to be the best. City Kickboxing, they've had their run. You know what I mean? And
Kind of coming to the end.
It's kind of coming to the end of their run. They got some new up-and-comers. Navajo Sterling, that was just on the Contender Series, had his UFC debut and won. They still got some great fighters.
Kakara's got a title shot.
Exactly right. So you can't discount them. But if you're talking about just entertainment value and entertaining Brazilians, it's the fighting nerds are the best stable in the UFC.
People on Twitter have called them the exciting Dagestanis.
Yeah, well, when you're winning fights by a spinning heel kick knockout and it looks like it's in UFC 5, you can't disagree. Like, they're very entertaining.
If anyone yet hasn't watched Carlos Prate's highlight reel, they're all great, like one-strike knockouts. It's so good to watch. He's actually a freak.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to UFC 313. We do this after every single card. The UFC 313 fighter pay, starting with Mauricio Rufy. Or Hoofy? He told us it was Hoofy. Starting with Mauricio Hoofy, $64,000.
That's disgusting. Like, now, one of the people say Dana doesn't pay their fighters. Like, with a spinning heel back kick, surely you're pushing more than 300K.
It's a knockout of the night. I think he would. I don't know if that
He'd get a
includes bonus.
I don't know. Maybe it doesn't include.
I
the
reckon
bonus.
that's 64,500, including not including bonuses. Jalen Turner, who retired after the fight, 161,000.
Look, go off into the sunset with your money. That's actually a great payday for you.
Kind of tough to see him because he was such a nice guy. I think he's well liked in the MMA community. That's his second loss in a row. He was weighing up whether he should retire for the last 11 months since 300, and he just said, "It's time for me to go."
And then the person that his career he basically ended, King Green, got paid 171,000.
Listen, King Green to go from, like we just said, after he changed his name from Bobby Green to King Green, he is 0-2. And it's not just 0-2 in any fashion. You got choked out by Paddy Pimblett, and then you got kicked in the head by Ruffy. It's just not looking good as King. I would change my name immediately back to Bobby Green and see how you go in your next fight. But 171,000 is not too bad.
Rafael Fiziev, $306,000.
Not bad for Fiziev. Taking the fight, 2 weeks' notice. He was in Thailand. He's been out on the shelf for a long time, coming off an injury. Hadn't had a fight in 500 plus days. Here's 300 grand for you.
That's what I'm saying. If you look at his lifestyle, obviously like 2 weeks ago, how am I going to make money? What am I going to do to get a bit of cash? Dana calls you, hey, 300K if you come fight on 2
Life
weeks'
of a
notice.
fighter.
300K done. Bang. That's easy money.
Magomed Ankalaev, $632,000.
That's the money for being in the main event. I mean, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have got a fight of the night bonus because it was a terrible fight. But 632,000, well deserved, and I'm sure it's going to go up in the rematch.
Well, you think the last pay-per-views you've seen main event fighters like Weili Zhang, Sean Strickland, earning $1 million plus. For someone being in the main event of a title fight earning less than $1 million, I'm a bit surprised. But when you take into account he doesn't speak English, it's very hard to sell, an Ankalaev fight, to be honest with you, as the main event. 632,000, not too bad, but that's only going to go up now that he's champion.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, like, as you become champion, you earn more money, you have more pay-per-view more of the pay-per-view
Yeah.
share. So it'll
And
only
this
go
is why
up.
this makes sense. Justin Gaethje, $1.6 million or 1.16.
No, 1.6.
Jeez. Justin Gaethje, $1.6 million. Again, kind of carrying this card. People were intrigued by his bout with Dan Hooker. He took the fight on short notice as well when Dan Hooker dropped out. He said, people have paid money to watch me fight. I want to fight. You know, he obviously getting pay-per-view points as well. But $1.6 million at 36 years old is a legend of the sport. Justin Gaethje deserves it.
You know, when Justin Gaethje was going through why he took the fight with Fiziev on short notice, and he was like, look, people have already paid for the tickets. I don't want to disappoint the fans. Yeah, you also want to earn $1.6 million. That's why. I'd want to fight anyone for $1.6
Probably
million.
got a good bump up as well.
I'll
for
fight.
taking it on short
I'd
notice.
fight Prime Mike Tyson for $1.6 million on 2 weeks' notice. Like that's what I would do for $1.6 million.
And last but not least, the one, the only, Alex Pereira, $2.9 million.
Hey, he's the star of the show. He's the superstar.
The
He
face
was
of the
champion.
UFC.
He was one of the faces of the UFC, and it's a well-deserved 2.9 mil. Whether he gets the same in the rematch because he's not the champion, I don't know. But that should allow him to go travel to Australia, travel to South Korea, maybe a bit more often.
You know what I do know? If he does have a rematch with Ankalaev, he will still get he will get paid more money than
Well, he's a
Ankalaev.
star, yeah.
So the challenger will get paid more than the champion in that rematch for sure. $2.9 million is crazy. This guy, again, he's traveling around the world. I don't know if he wants to do that anymore after losing this fight. Maybe he wants to lock in back in Brazil or in America with Coach Polino. But in saying that, $2.9 million is well-deserved. He's one of the faces of the UFC. Now the question is, in his next fight, in the rematch, does Bruce Buffer announce him as the one, the only again after the loss?
No, he doesn't. I think he shouldn't have done it anyways. Like McGregor and John Jones are like, you should have just kept it at them. Like they're two people that kind of deserve it. One's undefeated, best fighter ever. One's the most entertaining, the star of the sport, the biggest star of the sport. But I also want to just pose this question to you.
Mm-hmm.
$3 million is basically what he got paid. John Jones is asking for $30 million. Would you rather have 10 Alex Pereira fights or 1 John Jones fight?
If you're the fighter?
No. If you're Dana White, UFC, you're going to spend $30 million for 1 John Jones fight, or you can get 10 fights from Alex Pereira at $3 million.
Yeah, honestly, like on your profit and loss statement and as a business, you want 10 Alex Pereiras.
Exactly. So John Jones, now that that 30 mil does sound a bit excessive.
It doesn't sound excessive because there is only one John Jones. You know what I mean? And, you know, he's getting that Conor McGregor-like numbers.
Yeah.
So he kind of deserves it. Now, let's move over to boxing. Like we said, we were just in Saudi Arabia covering the last crescendo, the greatest boxing card ever assembled. Boxing is heating up. Boxing is almost competing with the likes of MMA and UFC in terms of combat sports. It's getting very popular in the UK, the US, even on Australian soil. It's heating up. And you've seen Eddie Hearn talking about it. The more people that are coming into the space with the Saudis in the space, it's getting huge. Now, Dana White has just confirmed a new TKO backed by the Saudis boxing league that will be launched either 2025 or 2026. This is what we know so far. Starting with, this may start as early as September in 2025.
Well, Turkey El Sheikh and Dana White made the announcement. They weren't holding hands, but they did make a profound announcement that this was going to be a new partnership with TKO and with the Saudi Arabians, something that's never before happened. Obviously, TKO and the Saudis obviously work a lot with the WWE that brought the UFC out to Saudi Arabia. So he's just going to build on that.
This is what the model is going to be. So the league aims to mirror the UFC structure, focusing on the centralized promotion where the best fight the best. They also said they're looking at potentially 150 to 160 boxers to have on their roster, and they're aiming for up-and-coming, you know, and developing talent so they can kind of create their own stars, similar to the early UFC days.
They're going to have rankings. They're going to have titles for different weight classes, very similar, trying to mimic the UFC.
Event locations, they're going to veer away from more Saudi-based pay-per-views like they have been doing right now, the Saudis in boxing, and they're looking at worldwide locations, United States, UK, Australia. So definitely looking at kind of a worldwide map when it comes to fighter locations.
And then on the production side, TKO is obviously going to leverage the UFC, WWE to try and put on these events. And that's what's going to make them even better. The production for these boxing events is going to be very similar to a
They're
UFC.
also going to be shaping them around super fights. For an example, they're looking at Terence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez, which could happen in September, could happen next year. But again, they're looking at super fights. Conor McGregor versus Logan Paul. That would be a TKO-backed production. Again, super fights is going to be crazy, and that's something that they can shop around to like a Netflix or an Amazon to put on. You know what I mean? So that's what that's what they've been doing.
And you said the possible date. Look, September 2025, very ambitious. It'll probably most likely happen in 2020.
Again, when you think about it, TKO, they're running all of entertainment.
Or combat sports
All of combat
entertainment.
sports entertainment. They will own WWE, the UFC, and now they got their hand in boxing. If I'm a promoter in boxing right now, I'm shitting myself because when you have this UFC model that's been shown to work, and you can say, okay, yeah, they don't get paid as much. And Ryan Garcia just came out and said, if it's UFC pay, it's not going to go too well. But again, the UFC said they're going to be veering away from the 3-letter belts, WBC, WBO, IBF, and they're going to have UFC style belts. So this league will have their own belts and pretty much the same divisions. I think they're going to have a bantamweight, a flyweight, a featherweight, a heavyweight, a light heavyweight, and a lightweight.
Well, you saw as well, Turkey El Sheikh, he told Canelo Alvarez, hey, get that WBC belt away from me. Get it off the stage. This is a new era. This is a new generation. We don't operate with those shitty belts anymore.
Do you think this is good or bad for boxing?
I think it's terrific. I think this is something that boxing's needed for many, probably decades. This needs to happen because there's too many promotions. All these big fights aren't happening because there's not one centralized organization that's putting these fights on. So this is going to be great for boxing, and I hope it gets to the point where it is competing with the UFC.
And I think all these promoters seeing the writing on the wall, then probably no longer going to be working with Turkey El Sheikh down the line. Eddie Hearn has said, listen, we've done some great business. If we don't want to work together, this is the end of a road. It's been a great relationship. Eddie Hearn's talking about maybe retiring and going off into the sunset. They've made their money, matchroom boxing, but I guess it's going to be good for boxing anyway.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
definitely.
There's more money going into the space. There's going to be more eyes on the sport, whether it's on Netflix or whether it's on ESPN. It's going to be great for boxing. So I can't wait to see what it's like, but that's what we know so far with the TKO boxing promotion.
But speaking on TKO, going to the WWE, talking about John Cena.
Mm-hmm.
With the ultimate heel turn, does he change his character up? Because there has been reports John Cena's going to go bold for his heel run with The Rock.
If John Cena shaves his head, that's full commitment to being a bad guy.
Because you're putting off movie roles with that.
Exactly right. That means he's committing to a full-time year with WWE. He's no longer can be in, filming a movie in Hungary or go and film in Peacemaker 2. If you shave your head like The Rock and you guys walk around together like you own Hollywood, that's a great way to be a bad guy. And you don't walk around in your Fruity Pebble colored clothing. You shave your head. Maybe you wear the Rock-style sunglasses, 2 bold chrome domes, running the WWE. He finally wins at WrestleMania. I think it makes the most sense.
Well,
John Cena, shave your head. Let's make it happen.
Let's be honest. John Cena is basically halfway bald already. If you see the bald patch on the back of his head,
Finish the job.
finish the job. Just get rid of it. And actually, you know what? It could be beneficial. You get rid of the hair now. You put on a couple beanies. You put on a couple hats. You can go to Turkey. No one will notice.
Well,
Next
listen,
time it grows back, you got a full head of hair.
people were really angry that he didn't come back with the buzz cut in his last final run.
The military cut. We want
Just
the military
just the
cut.
military cut. And you know what the step further is, John Cena, now that you're a bad guy? Shave the head. Look at all the bad guys in history. They look way more menacing. Lex Luthor in Superman. Straight shaved head. Be the Lex Luthor of WWE.
And if you look at the proposed photo, the image of The Rock and John Cena next to each other bald, it does look scary.
And look, really, when you think about it, I'm saying like, even just terms of television, Breaking Bad, Walter White went from Mr. Chips, the good guy, to ultimate Heisenberg shaved head. John Cena, you need to commit and be the bad guy. I don't want to see you come out in your hustle, loyalty, respect after you just, beat the shit out of Cody Rhodes and Travis Scott slapped him in the face and burst his eardrum. I want you to come out as a bad guy and be the ultimate bad guy, shave your head and join forces with Hollywood Rock.
No more jorts, no more socks especially.
Exactly right.
And no more hustle, loyalty, respect. We're putting it to bed. John Cena's a full-blown heel. But you know what? I'll settle for the military cut. If he comes out with the military cut, that's enough for me.
I'm going to say it. Heisenberg, Lex Luthor, Dr. Evil, John Cena.
All bold.
Yeah.
Let's
Make it happen. But that is all we have time for today on Trash Talk. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you stay tuned to the clips at John Bernard K on social media, TikTok and Instagram, and subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Kairouz Bros. That's all we have time for. Back to you in the studio, Ryan.